का खालसा
वाहिगुरु जी की फतेह वाहिगुरु जी का खालसा वाहिगुरु जी की फतेह जी welcome to another session of Khoj Gurbani. This is Ravinder Singh joining you from Columbus, and today we will have the fourth presentation on the topic of Hukam, and our presenter will be Starinder Mohan Singh from California. Indinder Mohan Virji, if you are ready, we are.
Thank you. Let's start.
Haji.
So coming in fourth after three of the presentations is going to be a lot of overlap, but hopefully I'm presenting a somewhat different perspective and some additional points. So let's start with this same Shabad that has been, the same lines that have been brought out before by everyone. The beginning of Japji Sahib, Guru Nanak Dev Ji asks, Kif sachara hoya, kif kura tutte paal? And then answer is, Hukam redai chalna, Nanak likhya naal. So how can we achieve union with the divine? And his answer is, Hukam redai chalna. So the question is, what is Hukam? And how do we live in alignment with Hukam? Hukam redai chalna. So Hukam is all-encompassing. Everything is under Hukam. Hukme andar sabko bahar hukam na koi. And Hukam is also agam and a gochar. It's beyond human comprehension. Just like Vaheguru himself, his Hukam is also agam. Hukmi hovana kar, hukam na kaya jai. Hukam na japi ketara keh na saki jai kar. So we can't really completely comprehend Hukam or describe it completely at a very intellectual level. But we can realize it and try to act in tune with it. And we can try to describe various aspects of it. It's a little bit like the old legend of the elephant and the 9 blind men or 6 blind men. So we can look at different aspects of it. Now, my perspective is that Hukam includes the system or framework under which everything in the universe happens. So it's not like the old image of the guy up in the sky who's controlling everything, like a puppeteer, as I think Eileen mentioned last time. He doesn't micromanage everything. So instead he has set up these complex systems through which his Hukam gets acted out. So Hukam is manifested through the laws of nature as well as spiritual laws. Kita pasao eko kawao, tiste hove laktaryao, as Guru Nanak Ji says in Japji. So everything comes up from this one word. And I'm hypothesizing that maybe the kawao, the word, or Hukam is the expression by God of all these natural and spiritual laws. So from that one word, from the one Hukam, everything springs out. So one aspect of Hukam is the laws of nature. Now the laws of nature are, of course, progressively discovered by science. And each time they discover something, it's yet another aspect of his wonders of his creation. So they reflect his awesome glories. So there is no conflict between science and Sikhi in any way, because every discovery, all of nature, all his everything that science discovers is only gives us something more of his wonderful creation, another source of his mahad. For example, all the living beings, including humans, are created in his will, but through the mechanism of evolution. It's really a pretty amazing process if you think about it. You start with a level of at the level of atoms. Through quantum mechanics, you look at how atoms are formed out of the nucleus and electrons and so on. At the next level, there's a whole science of chemistry coming from the way the electrons in the different atoms interact with each other. And then through chemistry, you come up with life and biology, all the processes that happen inside living beings, and the whole evolutionary process that creates millions of different beings and eventually man, who can then actually go back and study all these and figure these things out. So it's really awesome and a lot more impressive than, say, God saying, let there be man, and he created man, instead of looking at it that way. If you look at the actual process that we see through science, all the natural laws and how they operate, it's far more fascinating and awesome. Similarly, you look at the evolution of the universe from the Big Bang through creation of all the galaxies and stars and planets, and just see how awesome it is, the process of creation and of the natural laws. So also according to Gurbani, there are many mentions of his being Kot Brahman Kot Thakur, the master of countless universes, which he creates and destroys in his will. Gurbani talks about many parlos and creations, and physicists are beginning to speculate about the multiverse and universes popping in and out. So all these laws of nature are a very important part of the manifestation of his hukam. The other major part is spiritual laws, which are the subject of Gurbani. And some examples of some of the spiritual laws that we read about in Gurbani are the whole law of karma and dharma, where we reap what we sow, where our actions are judged, that whole process. Then Gurbani tells us about bhakti and naam and the way we can overcome home and kam, krodh, lobh, moh, ahankar, and how to achieve union with the divine. So this is also part of the spiritual laws that are an integral part of his hukam. Gurbani, another spiritual law Gurbani tells us about is how Waheguru takes care of his bhagats. As in, Okhi ghadi na dekhan de apna biras male haath de rakhe apne ko saas saas pate pale. And there are many other examples given in Gurbani, and the fact that Waheguru takes care of those who follow the paths of spirituality and naam and bhakti. So just a few examples of what we mean by spiritual laws. Now, the creator of these laws of nature and the spiritual laws himself is not limited by them. Also, he's not arbitrary or capricious. He's not just deciding to do things. Gurbani tells us that he is just, he's kind and forgiving. And in his hukam, if his hukam does appear to be unfair or mean, it is just our own limited understanding. We are told, Pura nyao kare kartar. His justice is perfect. He's always fair. Tum karo bhala, hum bhalo na jane, tum sada sada dayala. So God is always forgiving and generous, and everything he does is for the good. What happens in hukam is right, and it's what's supposed to happen. And we have to understand that and look at it that way. That's part of understanding hukam, is seeing that everything is done by Waheguru as it's supposed to be. Now, what about hukam Vijay Chalna? What does it mean to live in tune with hukam, to be aligned with hukam? So I see that as a couple of levels. One is accepting his will, what we talk about bhana manna, to recognize that everything is hukam and to accept it and in fact embrace it. And beyond that, it's also obeying and following the hukam that's within us, as Guru Nanak Dev Ji says, likhya nanak likhya naal. But we can't always access that depending on our spiritual level because of the limitations. We are not in touch with our inner self, with the eternal message. So to understand hukam and follow it is what the Guru gives us through Gurbani. So practicing the teachings of Gurbani is the other aspect of hukam Rijai Chalna. So let's start with the bhana manna, accepting the hukam, to cheerfully accept his will. And Gurbani, we have the amazing examples of Guru Arjan Dev Ji, where he went through all his incredible tortures and everything, and he could still sing Tera kiya meetha lage. That's the ideal that we have to get to. Of course, it's not easy. As Guruji says, Bikam Tera hai bhana. But that is the ultimate goal, is to be able to accept whatever happens. We also have some incredible examples from the lives of all the gurus, including Guru Gobind Singh Ji. His father was executed, his sons were all killed in battle, and he went through all the attacks by the Mughal armies. And yet, if you look at the Zafarnama, there is no anger, nothing negative in it, it's all positive. He tells Aurangzeb about his limitations, but he's willing to forgive and he's willing to work with him. So we have to always, we work hard to do all the right things, even if you're trying to follow Gurbani, but things won't always happen the way we want. tu karta karna mein nahi, jaho kari na hoi. But we have to have faith and accept that whatever in his hukam is for the best. Tum karo bhala, hum bhalo na jane, tum sada sada dayala, as we saw in an earlier slide. So bhana manna is not just accepting misfortunes or negative things. Usually that's what we think about when we talk about bhana manna. If something goes wrong, we say, oh well, it is God's will. But when good things happen, then we often take the credit ourselves. It's our accomplishment. We put in all the effort and we did the right things. It's our smarts, our intelligence. All granted. Things also happen in his hukam. And we have to, I think it's also very important to recognize that as well when you talk about bhana manna. In fact, when we are blessed and good things happen, it's an opportunity to remember Waheguru and to practice gratitude and to get more in tune with Waheguru and his hukam. We take so many blessings in our life for granted. So bhana manna includes embracing and celebrating our blessings as his gifts and to live in gratitude. If you look all around us, there are so many things to be grateful about, to appreciate all the beauty in nature around us, our children, our family, all the gifts we get. Guruji tells us, Tere ghar anand vadhai tod ghar. So in his hukam, our joy and celebration. This is a nice graphic I just picked off the web that just reminds us how many different things we are blessed with and how many ways we can appreciate our blessings and develop the spirit of gratitude. Our family, our health, all the blessings that we have. So living in according with hukam, being in alignment with it, means practicing the teachings of the Guru. As Guru says, Gursikh mi chalo gurchali, jogar kahe soi balmano, har har katha nirali. So the hukam is inscribed within us, as Guruji says in the Japji Sahib, Nanak likhya naal. But depending on our spiritual level, we can't really access it unless we are very far along the spiritual path, because we are separated from the deep truths within ourselves by this wall of haume, which haume bheet karari. So Gurbani, in fact, is hukam, but made accessible to the Guru. Now, the teachings of Gurbani center on two major areas, spirituality and ethics. The spirituality, or our relationship to God, Naam, and then our relationship with others, our actions, achar, sachachar. As Guru Arjan Dev Ji says, Sarab dharam mein shreshth dharam, apko naam jap nirmal karam. So those are the two essential components of any real faith. And Gurbani, of course, gives us the hukam along those two dimensions. Hukam and Naam are very closely related. Both words often refer to the all-pervading divine presence or spirit or jyot that underlines everything. Ek ko naam hukam hai, nanak satgur diya bujhaye jiyo. And hukam jina no manaya, then antar sabad vasaya. So shabad and naam are almost synonymous at times with hukam, depending on the context. So hukam is kind of aligned with naam, but it's an antagonist of haume. It's almost an antonym. So living in tune with hukam and recognizing hukam helps to overcome haume, which is the biggest obstacle to naam. Haume naave naal virodh hai, doi navase ek thai. So haume is both an obstacle to naam, to our spiritual progress, and also naam is what helps us to overcome haume. So it works both ways. Nanak hukme je bujhe, haume kahe na koi. So hukme helps you overcome. As we recognize hukam, as we realize hukam, that everything is hukam, then of course I am nothing because everything is Hukam, everything's happening through Waheguru. So Hukme je bujhe ta home kahe na koi. Hukam manne ta har mile ta vichon home jaye. So getting in tune with Hukam and being aligned with Hukam actually helps us overcome home. So alignment with Hukam and following Gurbani includes overcoming home, as we said, and home leads to the 5 major evils or avguns that come out of home, including Kam, Krodh, Lobh, Moh, Hankar. So alignment with Hukam and following Gurbani includes not only practicing Naam Simran and the spiritual side, but also overcoming our weaknesses. Now, in terms of ethics, Gurbani doesn't give us a whole list of do's and don'ts as some of the other faiths do, especially the Christianity and the Semitic religions. We don't have anything like the 10, what do you call it? You know what I'm talking about. We don't have a set 10 commandments. Somehow I was just losing that word. The 10 commandments or the Sharia law of the Muslims, or the Karm Kand of the Hindus. Instead, what Guruji gives us is a set of core values on the positive side and core evils that we have to overcome. So basic things like overcoming Kam, Krodh, Lobh, Moh, Hankar, and other weaknesses, and all the actual sins come out of being subject, and also tells us positive guns or things to inculcate: truth, contentment, compassion, doing one's duty, dharma, paropkar, and forgiveness. So central to the ethics of Sikhi is recognizing the divine light in all. It's a part of Hukam, and recognizing the Jyot. As this beautiful shabad from Guru Angad Dev Ji says, "Nako bari nahi begana, sagal sang humko banyai." I see no enemy, I see no stranger. And then he ends up saying, "Sab mein rav raya prabeko, pek pek nanak piksai." You see the one divine light in everybody and blossom forth in joy seeing that. And Kabir Ji says, "Aval Allah nur paya kudrat ke sab bande." Again, from one light, all the creatures have come out. And he ends the shabad with saying, "Hukam pachhane so eko jane, bandha kaya soi." So understanding and realizing the Hukam is seeing the one in everybody. Now, free will and choice is a subject that was actually addressed very, very well by Eileen last time. She did a terrific job, so I'm just going to barely touch on that. So Gurbani does tell us that everything happens as a Hukam. We have no power on our own. Kita karna sarv jai, kitkicha je kar sakiye. Apna kita kachhu na hove, jo har bhave to rakhiye. So everything happens under his will. We really don't have any power to do anything on our own. Everything is up to him. And mera kiya kuch na hoye, kar hai Ram, hoye so hoye. So everything is done by God. I really can't do anything. Tu karta karna mein nahi, jahu kari na hoye, as in Rehash Sahib. So this whole, there are all these messages in Gurbani that basically says everything is under Hukam, and there's very little we can do. And at the same time, of course, Guru is giving us a lot of directions on things we should do and choices we have to make. Following Gurbani, doing parts, Simran, avoiding all the evils we talked about, and doing all the good positive actions. And we are held accountable for our actions, as we are told that we will reap the results of our actions. So there is a dilemma of, how can both of these be true? So one thing to point out, though, is that we don't really have anywhere near the kind of autonomy that we think we have. Our DNA, which determines much of our personality, we have no control over our parents. We don't select our parents. We don't decide how the genes from the father and the mother are going to get permutated together. And in fact, if you listen to the evolutionists, through our DNA, we are pre-programmed. Our personality, our actions, our decisions are largely pre-programmed based on the requirements for survivability by early humans and even our ape ancestors before us. then as we are growing up, the environment in which we grow up has a big impact on who we are. And that, again, is not something we control. And then the external situation we face as we make our choices. Each time we make a choice, we don't control the environment in which we have to make the choice. So our autonomy is very constrained anyway. So the basic dilemma of free will and choice, I don't really have any better answers than what Eileen talked about. But at an intellectual level, it seems to be a very contradictory and a hard thing to decide. But what's important is how we actually act and what we do about it in our lives. And in my simple-minded understanding, my answer is simply that I have to act as though I have freedom of choice, and I have to make choices. I have to make the right choices by following the Guru's teaching, and I have to take responsibility for my actions. But at the same time, I have to see that everything is happening as a part of his hukam. So my ability to do anything, including the ability to follow the Guru's teachings and do the right things, is all through his blessings. And I should be grateful. So I have to both make the decisions and I have to recognize that whatever I'm doing, I'm actually doing because through Vaheguru's hukam. In fact, Vaheguru is even within me and he's doing everything. And I have to accept those results. And that's kind of the only answer I have on that. And that's all I have.
Anji, thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Anji, Chetan.
Anji Virji, thank you, Virji. I think it was a very clear presentation, having a very clear message, and I really liked a lot of points. I think you nailed it. I mean, a lot of points are very, very clear. Thank you for that. I have an observation, just an addition to what you said, and then a question that came to my mind. So in the last slide, or I think second last slide, when you said we have no control over our DNA, parents, or environmental situations, I would like to add, at least from my personal experience, that we don't even have any control over our thoughts. At least I don't seem to have any control over most of my thoughts. So that's just an observation. And a question that I want to ask is, you mentioned how to live in hukam, or like how to be in alignment with hukam. Like Panamana. So the question I have here is, like, let's say pretend we both work at the same workplace, and so how should I resolve conflicts at work or home while being in alignment with hukam? Or what state of mind like I should have? Like, let's say we are having a workplace conflict, so how should I resolve these conflicts, and what should my state of mind be while being in hukam?
Well, that's a very broad question, and obviously depends on the situation and the conflicts. But I think the underlying thing I would think is just to try to be true to ourselves and the teachings of Gurbani, which includes everything is in hukam, and we should be doing the right thing, being honest, being straightforward, and trying to address things at that level, and try to do it as much as possible without home. Again, I don't have a general answer that will fit all situations, except to try to follow Gurbani's teachings, and as we grow spiritually, I guess the answers will get more, will come to us more through within ourselves. At least I found that over time I'm finding it a little bit to ask myself situation, and to stay. A big part of the challenge in dealing with conflicts is to not let the ego get into it, to not get angry, to be able to think rationally, right? So those are the same things that we try to do as we grow spiritually, is to overcome anger and homa. I don't have anything, any answers beyond that.
ठीक है वीर जी, thank you so much.
Vijay, can I quickly chime into that?
Anji.
My take on that is, again, I don't have an answer, but a perspective maybe of from reading Gurbani. I think the word conflict or the word tussle or enmity, whatever you may call it, only arises two entities or more than two entities. And the genesis is in what Virji emphasized, the home, which is flourishing or prospering within us. I cannot, when I'm in a conflict or in any situation, I cannot comment about others, but I have to know that the home within me is flourishing, and which is what is creating these separate identities or the duality of existence. As they say, Itali ek haath naal nahi vajdi. You cannot clap with one hand. You need to have two hands. Only then there can be a conflict. And the resolution for that is what Gurbani tells us. Hukam pachhane ta eko jane. Oh, eko janna. When I put myself in somebody else's shoes, typically when we are in an argument, the other party says, why don't you put yourself in my shoes? Is the attempt for all of us to come in the same shoes, so to say. All of us are in the same mold and we break those multiple existences. That is what the realization of Concur is. Yes, that is a long journey, but the answer can only be one. And we have to, I feel, individually make that journey, that my existence is my surroundings, my peers, and ultimately the entire universe, which would Sajbhai naturally, by intuition, dissolve all those barriers and situations of conflict, and I would have an answer for myself, because I really cannot fight with myself.
It's a very good answer. Seeing gets back to overcoming your own home and seeing recognizing the divine light in everybody. At least that's part of it, Hanji.
Anji, thank you, Virji. Anji, Ripudama Virji.
Hanji Virji, Vaji Khalsa, Vaji Fateh. Actually, just continuing on the previous question, just one observation. First of all, thank you for the wonderful presentation. Enjoyed it very much. The conflict, I'll just give you a couple of examples, right, from Sikh history itself. Guru Arjan Dev Ji and Jahangir had a conflict, and Guru Arjan Dev Ji decided, to do passive resistance, so to speak, so much so that he gave up his, life after being tortured for 4 days. That's what you're given an example in the talk for. Then you also have examples of Guru Har Gobind Ji, Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji, Guru Gobind Singh Ji, who actually fought in the battlefield. All three of them have fought in the battlefields. So there is obviously something, which they said that, okay, the same light is in everyone. There is no, there is no duality. It's all one, and yet, from our perspective, they played out two very different roles. So I think while that I appreciate that perspective, to apply is still a very personal decision. And at least in the past 4 lectures, I still have not very clearly heard as to how do you apply that decision, except that, it's your internal compass that you ultimately have to align slowly and steadily and act on it.
Thank you, Virji. Anji, IG Uncle Ji.
I have to first say that I have missed all of the earlier sessions, and I'll be perhaps talking about things that have been talked about very well. But when we think of that everything is controlled by the creator, I think that's perhaps not quite the way it is. The whole emphasis on gratitude and the controlled by creator is to perhaps create a change in attitude, how we do things, so that the result of doing something in life is not to say that we did it, I've achieved it, I've done it. To get rid of that attitude, we've overemphasized the model of denial of the self and the attitude of gratitude. And I don't think that they are meant to be quite that way. I think I'll leave it at that for the moment.
Thank you. Anji, Ravinder Virji.
Well, thank you, first of all, Indramohan Virji. It was very clear, very crisp, obviously a reflection of your engineering mind, I think. You must be an engineer somewhere in the past. So much appreciated. I think you shed a lot of clarity on some of the issues that we've talked about. I liked your observation about the fact that we perhaps have to act as though we are accountable and responsible for our actions, but at the same time, we don't have to attach ourselves to the outcome, which is the aspect of Pana Manna. I certainly, that resonated with me. The other observation that I had is something that Ripudaman already spelled out. I was thinking exactly along the same lines, but it seems to me that just a little addition to what he said. I mean, Gurbani is the moral compass for us. So we have to act. We should know the direction in which our actions should be. And we should actually act in accordance with that moral compass. Those moral values, as you said, Gurbani is Hukam. Access to Hukam is Gurbani, and Gurbani is telling you in no uncertain terms what dharma is and what morality is. So I think that is one litmus test for every action that you take. I just have one question. You talked briefly about conflict between science and Sikhi being non-existent. And I'm wondering how you would address the fact that evolutionists like Richard Dawkins and Darwin, for that matter, say that we are really the outcome of blind forces. I mean, they are not positing Waheguru at all. I wonder if you have any thoughts about that.
Well, yeah, I think that is their point of view. But my perspective is that I think these laws are amazing, of the laws behind evolution and other things, and those are part of the wonders of how Waheguru goes about exercising his Hukam. Their observation is, I think they're just starting with the assumption that if you can come up with a scientific description of some things, then it's happening by itself, and that's not necessarily true. I mean, even the underlying laws could be created by a higher power. That would be my answer to that. I think it's incredible that these seemingly random processes can generate so much beauty. That is part of the wonderful design to me. I mean, to me, intelligent design is not designing a person; it's designing the process by which a person happens to come about through all these processes. That itself is design, right? It's very, very intelligent design, super intelligent design.
Yes, intelligent design that is left free to evolve.
Thank you, Ji.
Perhaps.
Thank you, Virji. Eileen.
Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh. Thank you, Indramohan Virji. It was, I agree, it was really clear and crisp presentation, which opened up a lot of room also for some thoughts that I had that I think these are completely new ideas about Hukam. So that's really refreshing to kind of get new insights. And now one of the things that you raised, which I had never quite thought of this way, but I'd love to get your thoughts and feedback, is, from time to time, depending on the context, I think of Hukam as a system or an ordering, kind of that those principles of intelligent design at work. And then at other times, I do reflect on, the qualities and virtues, positive and negative, that we're instructed about from Gurbani. And I think about Haume being the opposite of Hukam, as you mentioned. But now I'm wondering, does that imply that Haume also is a system and an ordering of things?
Well, Haume.
Yeah, how do you kind of look at Hukam maybe as a system, and Haume is the opposite of that? Because I find it really intuitively, seems to be accurate. But then I wonder, what am I really saying there if I think about it that way?
Well, these words have multiple shades of meaning. I don't see Haume as being the opposite of Hukam. Maybe it's the opposite of Naam. And sometimes Naam and Hukam are the same, but other times they are not. Hukam to me is the overall encompassing set of laws and processes and everything that Waheguru does, and he has created Haume itself in all of us, so it's a part of Hukam in that sense. I don't see it as being opposite of Hukam, but it's opposite of it's an obstacle in our ability to live in tune with Hukam. Does that make any sense? I don't know.
It does. I guess I'm just kind of thinking about the structures of things, and if so, Haume is an obstacle to living within the system that is around us. It just makes me wonder about how Haume operates then, in a way. I mean, it's just, I guess it's opening up an interesting, area of inquiry I hadn't thought about before in terms of.
Can I offer an insight? Can
Sure.
I offer something just occurred to me. We are thinking in terms of Haume and Hukam being, somehow antonyms or opposite to each other. I seem to think that when we are asked to live in Hukam and not in Haume, what I take from that is that we are perhaps not living completely. We are not living to our fullest potential. We are living very superficially, and that there is still a great part of us that is available to us, but we haven't accessed it. That's how I see it.
Mm. Okay, thank you. That's helpful.
So maybe somebody would remember that phrase, that Bani, the body, which it says that Haume eho hukam hai. I don't completely remember it. I don't have my iPad in front of me.
This is what the body is. Haume hukam hai, paiyan kirta firai. Haume hi bandhana phir pujo nahi paaye.
So So Virji, wouldn't it mean that it is part of the Hukam actually, right?
Well, everything is part of Hukam, and Haume is certainly part of Hukam in that sense of the word Hukam. But there's a different sense of the Hukam, which is in terms of being in tune with Hukam or living. Alignment with Hukam means alignment with the teachings of Gurbani, if we get in touch with our divine self, there's a certain set of a certain direction that we are inspired to act, and Haume is kind of opposite to that in some sense. But Haume, everything is part of Hukam, so you can't say Haume is not part of Hukam. So you can't say Haume is opposite of Hukam, but Haume is opposite of living in Hukam or being in tune with Hukam. Does that make any sense?
Maybe, I guess. So I don't want to be. I mean, I don't want to be oppositional, but what's happening in my mind is sort of a barrier where I'm thinking about living in Haume, right? If Haume is part of Hukam, then that's effectively I'm living in Hukam. If I'm living in Haume, right? So I mean, I'm having logical. I have that kind of a brain where I have to break things down a bit and maybe reorganize them. But
I see where you're, but I don't see
it's a conundrum, but I think it's just
it's
requires more thought.
It is the phrase "living in Haume." You're not living in Haume. You are allowing Haume to. You're letting Haume control your behavior,
Right?
but you're still living.
Right.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Couldn't I say that Haume is, to a degree, your sense of self? And the Guru is not talking against that.
No, he's talking about
when Haume becomes narcissism, then that's to be condemned. Haume, the sense of self, is necessary, is essential to that degree. But narcissism is not. That's Haume ran amok.
It's being driven by Haume.
Okay, like
problem, right?
Okay. Like positive and negative gun, basically. It's kind of saying it's like a
too much of a good
thing. It's more
thing.
on the other side. Okay.
Perhaps too much of a good thing can be horrible.
Thank you. Okay.
In fact, all of the 5 Kam, Krodh, Lobh, Moh, Ahankar are things that we need to some extent, but we have to be controlling them instead of them controlling us.
They're all essential to life. All of them.
Thank you, Ji.
Thank you, Ji. Ji, Prabhprit Ji. Ji, Gurjeet Ji.
Hello.
Ji, Prabhprit Ji, are you back?
Yes. So I just wanted to. Sorry, I'm a little out of breath. I'm in the morning here in India. So the discussion we were having about conflict, and Ripudaman Viji brought out a very beautiful example. Just wanted to pause on that. I think that would understand the kids a little better. About conflict or any other concept, and when we reflect on Gurbani, I feel from my experience, I have struggled when I make the mistake of the physical world, whereas Gurbani is talking about everything within me, the jag, the srishti, the kar, everything inside me. I think there is a Panki in Gurbani which says "Home dirag rog hai." So that rog or that illness, that state of not being in a state of well-being, and when I am living with that rog or illness, I'm in conflict. I am that, the conflict with a person, the momentary conflicts that keep happening with people, with places, are just manifestations. Whereas I am in continuous conflict within myself. And it is that very conflict is helping me or guiding me to resolve. Because when I am in that internal conflict, meaning I'm living in the home, the rogue, my responses to the situation, whether physical or whether in terms of my thinking, are not in tune with the hukam, are not in tune with a situation of natural being made, are not in tune with Ahankar, living in oneness. Whereas the example that we took, where Guru Arjan Dev Ji had what we say, the conflict with Jahangir, I would say Guru Arjan Dev Ji did not have a conflict. Jahangir had a conflict with Guru Arjan Dev. Guru Arjan Dev Ji was living in Hukam. His internal conflicts were resolved, and the response that he gave, or to anyone else, was actually in unison with a natural response, one that would uphold Hukam in be what a response would be of a person that is experiencing, that is living a life of oneness. So in all the situations, our attempt has to be to see how we resolve those internal conflicts. Answers to the situation would just be, outcomes of living in that state or in that state of being within myself. So, which is why I also feel when VG was talking about good or bad in his presentation, and again, I would like to congratulate VG for making a wonderful presentation. When VG was talking about good or bad, again, that good things happen to me, and then it's a blessing of God. And one bad things also happen. I have to accept it as Hukam. I am creating two layers. That a bad thing has happened, but let me accept it because this is Hukam. So even before acceptance, I have classified it as a bad thing. So acceptance wouldn't happen. Whereas the situation to be in is a good thing or a bad thing. If everything is happening in Hukam, everything is a good thing. And when that would happen, then I am automatically in acceptance of the Hukam. So that's where the walls that I typically world and the spiritual world have to really dissolve for me to think in one world and be in one world, which is only what would resolve the conflict.
Thank you, Vijay. Anji, Gurjeet Veer ji.
ਹਾਂਜੀ ਵੀਰ ਜੀ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕਾ ਖਾਲਸਾ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕੀ ਫਤਿਹ thank you Vijay for the presentation, and I would like to ask you that you said hukam razai chalna nanak likhya naal. Is there some hukam written with us before we were born? Is that how you comprehend? And then what's our role? How will we get mukti if there is already something written before we were born? Is that, I think, how you comprehend these lines?
I see Nanak Likhya Naal as deep within ourselves is the inspiration of how we should act and where we should end up of Vaheguru's Hukam. And but that divine inspiration is hidden from us by our own Home. And that is why we need Gurbani to understand what the Hukam is. Gurbani to me is Hukam in a form that those of us who are not very spiritually advanced can still have access to it. But for the people who are completely in tune with Naam or the Gurus or some of the saints discover it within. The Guru is within themselves, right? So that Hukam is the Guru within ourselves. But most of us can't access that, and we need an external Guru like the human Gurus or the Gurbani. I don't know if that answers your question, but that's my perspective on that.
Yeah, I just wanted to know what the word likhya means. Has he written, or is something which I write?
I understand it. That is, it is something that's there within each one of us, but we have to access it. I don't know if that's the only answer. There may be multiple interpretations of it.
Okay.
Does anybody else have a different understanding of it? No.
Ji, Ravinder Vij.
No, I'm good. I'm good. I think there's a lot has been said that I think I certainly would like to reflect on and contemplate. I think there's a lot of food for thought. So thank you, Indramohan Veerji.
Thank you. Ji, Iqbal Kaur ji. Ji, Iqbal Kaur ji, you're mute right now. Okay, I think so. Ravinder Vij, you want to take for second round?
No, carry on. You're doing a great job. You don't have much time. It's only 5 more minutes.
Thank you. Okay, Ripudam Veer ji, any final comments? Any final observation for today?
Maybe very nice discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Ji. Eileen?
I don't think I have anything additional. I really, I really want to thank Indramohan Veerji because I really like that blend of the ethics side and the spiritual side, and just trying to kind of reconcile some of those. I think I treat a little bit too loosely sometimes when I kind of use shorthand to think about the concept. So I think it's super helpful.
Thank you, Ji. IG uncle.
Well, thank you, Indramohan, and thank you very much to all the other people that I didn't know too well, but I enjoyed it, and I'll see what I can do, how to process it. That'll take time. Thank you.
Sure, thank you, Ji. Praprit Veerji.
Thank you so much, Veerji. I'm good. Thanks to everyone.
Ji, Gurjit Veerji.
I think we have 4 minutes. So, the one in Asakivar we read is Appine ab sajyo, appine rachyo no, dui kudrat sajye. So, is it a 3-phase? How we comprehend? Is it a 3-phase process going on there?
I don't know about the phases, but I think what it says is that the way I understand it is that Vaheguru himself created Nam as the mechanism or the power that he uses his spirit out of himself. It's not something different. It's an aspect of Vaheguru himself, but it's the creative aspect that underlines all of creation, where all the Hukam is executed through this power of Nam or Hukam. Everything is created and everything happens. I think that's what he's saying. The Kudrat is, Naam underlines Kudrat is kind of what it's saying, but of course Vaheguru created everything. Naam ke dhare khan Brahman, line hai na.
So if anyone else want to add, because we have still 2-3 minutes, then I will try to do it next week. Hanji.
I can. I have not that line before, well before. But while you mentioned it, it's really creating a thought in my mind that Apine aap sajiyo, Apine rachiyo now, dui kudrat sajiye, kar asan ditho chao. So that word dui makes it a little hard for me, difficult to grapple with what is being conveyed in this line, because if it is all one, then it would not be something where he has first created himself and then now, or the niyam or the laws or the hukam, and then created the srishti. A way creates a division which is hard to comprehend. Another perspective could be, I don't know, that apine aap sajiyo Api ne rachiyo now. So this creation, the niyam is his creation and we are a part of it, the entire existence. But dui kudrat saji hai. That dui is the duality, which is an outcome of my home. That my home is working to create that kudrat within me. Yeah, that home within me. Kar asan ditho chao, where I believe I am the king. I am the one who is controlling all the things, and which is what is leading to that one and the dui, the connecting it with in another place where Gurbani says that Sagal Srishtka Raja Dukhiya Har ka naam japat hoy sukhiya. So that dui kudrat which I have created within me is my creation, is what is where I believe I am the king or the ruler. All are making me dukhi. Har ka naam japat hoy sukhiya. I have to again merge with just my some random thoughts on that. Viji. Pardon me if I am
Hanji,
really off the
thank you
track.
very much, Ji. We are hitting 10 o'clock. We're trying to call it wraps. Gurjeet Virji, you're on next week, so you'll have ample time to give us your perspective on opinion outside you, and we can continue this discussion then. And I'd like to thank everyone for joining in what I think is a real stimulating discussion around Hukam. So see you all next week. Waheguru Ji ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji ki Fateh.
Waheguru Ji ki Fateh.
I think.
Waheguru Ji ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji ki Fateh.